evening. I'm meteorologist Colleen Peterson. We are breaking into programming for a tornado warning. So if you live in Crawford and Harrison County, and even in Louisville, Jefferson County, I do want you to pay attention because this tornado is heading off to the east. Now, it is not confirmed on the ground just yet. This is a radar indicated storm. Again, it is moving through East Crawford County and then Jefferson County. So this is in effect until 9:15. So over the next 30 minutes, a tornado watch is in place until 3 o'clock. So we were concerned with some pop-up storms, and that's exactly what's happening right now with a potential tornado here just in southeastern Crawford County. So let's go ahead and zoom on in and see exactly where this potential tornado is. It looks like it's just south of English. If you were on Facebook Live, we were tracking this storm as it was severe thunderstorm warned, and then now has developed potentially into a tornado. So highlighting exactly where that rotation is right now. Again, if you're tuning in, there is a tornado warning in place moving right over north of Leavenworth right now. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the potential area of some rotation that we're seeing being picked up on that radar right now. So if you live in Beechwood right now in over Sulphur, a potential tornado is over you. We are picking up some broad rotation. Again, it's not confirmed on the ground, but you definitely need to be taking these precautions carefully. So Louisville, heads up, because if this storm continues to develop, then that's going to be knocking on the front door of Floyd County as well as Jefferson County and Harrison County, Corydon as well. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and put a track on this system as I put the reflectivity back on. It is moving off to the east and northeast right now by about 45 miles per hour. So Louisville, we have about till 9:37 p.m. Eastern time. So we have to take this seriously because we are getting indications of a potential tornado. I'm keeping updated with the track right now to see if we have any indication that it is on the ground. Let me go ahead and pull up the information on this. It is capable, tornado and quarter-size hail also with this storm. So right now it's not confirmed on the ground, but again, if you are in the path, go ahead and get your family members and head to the basement, especially if you live in southeastern central Crawford County. Breaking down city by city, White Cloud, you have some time. This is not confirmed, but it has that potential to be on the ground right now. We're going to have to wait to see if we get any damage reports, as well as check that correlation coefficient, which really picks up if we see any debris through that radar. So Jeffersonville, you have some time until about 9:41 p.m. The time right now is 8:49 Eastern time, and then it could potentially be over Jefferson County in about 30 to 45 minutes. This is a cell that could continue to develop right now. So we're going to continue to track this for you and let you know if it's strengthening, if it's weakening. Hopefully it continues to weaken as it moves off to the east. But as of right now, it is only including Harrison County, Crawford County in this tornado warning. If you live west of that, you're not in the path of it. This is moving off to the east, just north of it in New Amsterdam. So if you live in New Amsterdam, you are not in the path of this potential tornado. So let's go ahead and look at the big picture, because really, this is going to be the scenario. It's going to be one or two thunderstorms that have that capability of producing a tornado. In fact, that is the only cell that we are watching right now. So quick check at our friends over in Indianapolis. They are dealing with severe weather outbreak. I mean, we just missed out on seeing those storms that's moving through Greensburg as well as Franklin right now, just off to the north. But again, right now, this tornado warning is in place until 9:30 p.m. This is just north of Leavenworth, and then it's going to be moving off to Corydon right now. I do want to get the latest update of the scans clocking in to see if we're seeing any kind of update on strengthening, seeing that trends of weakening. And right now it is still holding itself together. Have not shown any signs of change really from the last few previous scans. So broad rotation right now. I'm staying updated with the National Weather Service if we have any other further update on this tornado warning that is in place for Crawford, Indiana, Harrison, Indiana, Meade County, Kentucky, and Perry, Indiana, Kentucky, here until, let me see, 9:30 p.m. So we still have some time tracking the storm. So let's go ahead and put a track on this system because it is heading towards some very populated areas. Also potentially directly in the path, potentially, of downtown Louisville. I mean, the distance, let's see, the distance from the downtown Louisville, it's about 30 miles off to the west. So if that storm continues to hold its strength, I'm going to walk you through that process, but we could potentially be seeing a tornado heading right towards Jefferson County. This also includes a very populated area. So if you're here, if you're listening and it's not in your area and you live east of this storm, I want you to pay attention because it is heading towards a very populated area. Hopefully it shows signs of strengthening, but as of right now, it is not. It's starting to get that kink shape that indicates a supercell. So you can see if we have a potential tornado, it's almost like a hook echo. It is a little bit of a weaker indication of it. Leavenworth, you are just to the south of it. I think if we have a tornado, it's just along I-64 right now, moving through Crawford County, eventually Harrison County. Corden, I want you to go ahead and find your safe place. You're not in this tornado warning just yet, but if it continues to hold its strength, continuing to show signs of rotation, you just want to be on that safer side, right? The more warning, the better. And when tornado warnings happen, it can happen in an instant. So don't want to freak you guys out. We're not seeing anything confirmed just yet, but I do have my eyes on that chat. If you happen to see any damage reports, if you happen to see any photos, definitely want to send that in here to us here. We can see the storm off to the west. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Max. Okay, we can see the storm. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and take a shot of Reed Yaden and John Humphreys. They are currently tracking the storm, and it looks like they are seeing the outside of the supercell. You can kind of see it's a little bit clear on the left side of that screen, and then you start to see that development on the right side. That is that potential area where they're seeing that in-draft of that supercell right now. So I'm actually gonna, if we could put Max 1 on that Max HD radar there on that screen, that would be very helpful, just to zoom it on in a little bit closer. And so we have a full team of meteorologists out there. We have storm chasers and our first alert storm team weather base. I'm here in the studio watching it for you, but again, that was just a live view of that supercell that is moving just north of Leavenworth right now. And down camera, yes. Let's go ahead and switch it over. Yeah, but you can even see that development of that storm off to the west. It is heading our way. This is a potential tornado warning that could be over Jefferson County here very, very shortly. I mean, you start to see those puffy clouds, those towering cumulus clouds off to the west. So that tornado warned storm is off to the west of Louisville by just about 30 miles. So we're going to keep our eyes on all of the cameras out there, especially our traffic cameras. And of course, we have our meteorologists out and storm chaser out in the weather beast that's tracking this storm. All right, so let's go ahead and make sure I'm staying updated with you. If you're tuning in right now, a tornado warning is in place. The time is 8:55 p.m. For Crawford County. This also includes Harrison County and just north of Louisville. And you know what? If they're going to extend this warning, we might see this next warning include Jefferson County here shortly. So we're going to stay updated with you. So I do want to get back to see if we see any signs of weakening, and we really don't. We're still seeing that continuous broad rotation right there. So if we potentially have a tornado, we have the Galt House camera as well. Where is it? Looking west right now. Thank you. I'll pull that up in just a second, but I do want to show if we potentially have a tornado right now. It is over Carefree. If you live in this community, I want you to go ahead and seek shelter. It's broad rotation. We're not saying it's on the ground. This is a potential, a dangerous situation, and you want to take the precautions, as well as along a busy highway, I-64 through Carefree and Leavenworth, and it's going to cross over to Harrison County. There is that county divide right there between Crawford and Harrison County, moving right along I-64. You know what? That's not good that it's moving right along I-64, because it's following a major highway, and the time right now, well, it's 8:56, so hopefully people are already off on the road, but we also think about our truckers, our late night drivers. maybe Uber Eats out there on the road. So we're watching that for you. So it looks like it's traveling right along I-64, not losing its strength. In fact, it kind of still has that hook echo that we're watching. I do want to switch it over to our Galt House camera right now. Again, a towering cumulus cloud. This is a live view of that tornado warned storm moving towards Jefferson County right now. We're going to continue to keep our eyes on this because we do not want a storm heading our way, and we do not want a tornado on the ground, but it does look like it is developing a little bit. You see that indraft and you can updraft with some clear skies along it. This is the perfect scenario. All right, so we have meteorologist Reed Yaden out on the road tracking the storm. Reed, tell me, what are you seeing out there? Do you have eyes on it?
Oh yeah, we have eyes on it right now. We're running along 64. We're going to move into the warned area, and the image that you've been seeing, it's getting a little dark now for the camera to pick it up, but the image you've been seeing is actually a cell that is now split into three parts, but the warned part is the part you've been dwelling on there, and that's the correct thing to do. The movement of the storm is very slow. It's not a fast mover at this particular point, and it looks like it is moving basically east-southeast is what we're seeing. We'll be getting into position here in the next 10 to 12 minutes. We'll be a little closer to it. We are on 64 heading eastbound. We're going to be up around westbound, I'm sorry, and we'll be up around Leavenworth, and we'll be right directly under the storm here momentarily. So we'll keep you updated, Colleen. In the meantime, back to you on this potentially very, very dangerous situation that we're tracking tonight.
Thank you so much, Reed and John. I hope you stay safe because you can see on that screen, it is moving right along I-64. Just off to the east of Leavenworth. So moving just over Leavenworth, heading towards Corydon, and then that next stop, again, is more populated areas. We're talking about Jefferson County, Floyd's Knob, Floyd County, Clark County, and it's moving off that north-northeast pattern right now along I-64. So we have a full team for you, keeping you safe. Recent trends on this system, I mean, it does look like it is falling apart a little bit, which would be good because it's kind of starting to blow itself out. And what I mean by that is, you know, when something's rotating in a circle, right, then it starts moving in a straight line, the winds are moving parallel to one another. So it's starting to lose strength, which is what we call weakening. So that is much better news right now because we see the wind directions kind of going in the same direction and not really a circle. So that is good news, showing signs of weakening. However, it is still a tornado warning. We need to take it seriously. I did just check the chat. There is a report of funnel cloud. Someone just reported over Carefree, which is what we're seeing right now, where that potential tornado is just over I-64. So tornado warning in place if you're tuning in just right now. It's over Crawford County. In fact, it's about to leave Crawford County and enter Harrison County. This is in effect until 9:30 p.m., so we still have some more time of this tornado warning, and then it's moving right along I-64, which is a busy highway. Let's go ahead and put a track on it because I know a lot of people are tuning in wondering where it's heading next. Is it going to hit Jefferson County? Is it going to move off to the east? I do want to do an updated track. Let me make sure that it didn't change direction at all here. Checking this the information on this tornado warning right now. All right, so it's moving east northeast at 30 miles per hour. I do think it took a little bit of a north track, which would be a better scenario for Louisville. So 35 miles per hour, not moving that fast. So, you know, it might miss Jefferson County or downtown Louisville by just a few miles here, but then we have to focus on our friends over in southern Indiana. I do want to put another track on this storm so we can include a few more populated areas. There we go. All right, so
white cloud, the Harrison Crawford State Forest, you would be very much in the path of this storm as well. When we look at the velocity, I'll just put it on full screen instead of the scope. This is the area of rotation situated along and just south of Interstate 64 between Carefree and Leavenworth at this point. Some strong winds may be passing over Indiana 66 down near Indiana 62. That will swing over toward the Wyandotte area as it continues moving into the western parts of Harrison County. Let me zoom this out real quick as we go to our home view, just to point out that that is the only warning. And in terms of other storms, when we look at the radar view, while we have others on the radar, one in northern Washington County fading away, a few others on the radar, this is the only one that's severe. Ryan, what do you have?
Yeah, at this point, Du Bois County now clocking in with some power outages here from this storm. About 2% of the customers tracked in Du Bois County. That's about 371 customers are without power. Crawford County has not updated yet here in the system since that's still just kind of happening here. We'll continue to monitor the power outage reports and to get those damage reports as they come in there, Kevin.
All right, Ryan, thanks. The power outages give us a good idea of where we've had, obviously, the most intense winds with these storms. So they're very helpful for us to track as we roll through severe weather. Obviously, this storm is the one that has our attention the most because it's the only one that's warned. It's the only one that's really spinning up. It's the one we've had damage with as it passed by Sulphur. We have a carport that's been damaged, trees, power lines. There's no reason to think that that's not still continuing as this moves off to the east. About 30 miles an hour as its forward motion as it pushes eastbound. Here's Corydon, just to get your bearings. Here's Crandall, Georgetown. Now we're into Floyd County here, western parts of Jefferson County and Metro Louisville at the far edge where I'm standing. So it's this storm that we have to watch because its movement would take it right into the metro, all right? Weakening or not, even if we lose the rotation temporarily, doesn't mean it would not come back. In fact, the odds would be high that the storm could rotate again unless it just all collapses. It's not showing signs of that at this point. I'm going to recenter the storm, and we just keep pushing it back so you can see it move across the screen. I'll get it there, and there we have Louisville in sight, all right? So when we look from our SkyTrack camera in Corydon, and we look due west, you can see that storm approaching, all right? You've been seeing
quite a bit of lightning, too, on that feed, Kevin.
On the SkyTrack?
Yeah, they're from Corydon.
All right, let's take a look, and you can see that storm from our SkyTrack camera, and looking at that, you can see the lightning showing up. So a very tall thunderstorm that continues to rise in height, indicating that that storm is still growing and intensifying, and that is the view from our SkyTrack camera out of Corydon. Again, right here, looking into the storm. That storm is billowing up in height. Let's take a look again at the velocity. And we go to the velocity just to see if it's tightened up or weakened. Still there and still pronounced. You can see that by the solid sort of defined colors of red and blue next to each other. That is the rotation. So when we look at that and we track that off to the east, there's the rotation. Now let's track that one area of rotation. I'm going to put that down and let's just use this line. I'm going to map this out. We'll swing it here. So give us an idea of some timing. So it pushes it toward Wyandotte at 9:07, Moberly 9:16, Corydon 9:24. So Corydon maybe about 20 minutes away from you, all right? That's just an indication of a few places that may be in the path of this storm as it approaches. That is the rotation. That is when it would arrive in those areas I just mentioned. Back to our reflectivity on the radar, and then again I'm going to look to see if we see any debris at all within this storm. Very helpful for us to know if there's something actually on the ground. We know there's been damage, but that doesn't mean that the radar is seeing it or that it's kicked up into the atmosphere, right? It could just be straight line winds that blew something down. We know we have carport damaged, trees, power lines, but let's see if we can see any debris with this, giving an indication that we'd have the tornado on the ground. And I'm scanning this. Obviously, we know where it would be if we were to see it in that area, not seeing it. So just don't see that there's an actual tornado on the ground at the moment. Doesn't mean there wasn't back near Sulphur where we had the damage. Again, we've lost somewhat of the hook that's there, but the one thing that gives us confidence that this is still rotating is when we look at the velocity, we can still see that rotation very vividly. It shows up. There's no denying the storm is rotating. We can see it based on the velocity, okay? There are a couple of things that don't show it as much as they did. This one still does, and that's the idea. We just have to keep scanning and using the tools that we have. Brian?
All right, Kevin, now let me show you what we look at on storm heights. Right now, the one that is northern Harrison is coming in at about 45 to 47,000 feet. But note the one that is across Clark County. That one has gone up. In fact, let me show you just the past couple of scans how rapidly it has gained height. Now let me show you the SkyTrack camera, that exact same cell that is on I-65 as you move right into there. And again, that is a growing thunderstorm cell right over there into Clark County. Again, no warning on that one right now, but that is a cell that again is gaining some height. Let me try to get the height on that.
And explain why height is important to people.
Height's important. Once you get to roughly about 40,000 feet, that's when you start talking about severe potential being met with this type of a setup. And this is a storm that is again tracking off to the east and is gaining now a bit more of that height at about 47,000 for the one in northern Harrison. Let me get you the quick update on the one that is there into Clark County. Again, 39 to 40,000, but the average for getting severe limits is at 35. So it's getting closer and closer. So kind of a big heads up for those in Clark County, along Charlestown Road, I-65, as it tries to stretch its legs all the way even across the Ohio River back into the western side of Oldham County. This may try to get closer to severe limits in the next, say, 10 to 15 minutes or so.
And some of this based on looking at the SkyTrack cameras and the radar. The storm may be getting pulled apart a little bit as it gets sort of stretched by some of those upper level winds too. So as it rises in height, those winds sort of grab it and pull it forward. So some of that it could be some shearing of the storm itself. Clearly, we have the storm developing with more and more lightning that we can see on our radar view. We still have the rotation showing up. Strong updrafts also noted within that storm. That rotation is still very much present along Interstate 64. It's going to take it right toward the Corydon area. Wouldn't be surprised as the core of the rotation moves near the end of the warning polygon that new warnings would be issued that could take us into parts of Floyd County. Whether that's a severe thunderstorm or a tornado warning, one or the other would need to be issued with this from the Weather Service. So plan accordingly and know that downstream, Corydon, Crandall, Fairdale, Lanesville, Georgetown, you would be next in line to see this storm move in your direction. A storm that has produced damage, a storm where we know we have had trees down, power lines down, and at least one carport that's been ripped up. And, that's not saying much because we don't know what the structure was like, but nonetheless, you get the idea that we've had wind damage out of this storm. It's the one we're tracking. Warning, tornado warning, until 9:15. Right now it's 9:07. This storm will continue its eastward trek at about 30 miles an hour. Brian, anything new?
No, sorry, we lost our signal there for a second, so we're getting our systems back up. Sorry about that. But yeah, we're still watching that one that is located there in Clark County. Yes, you can get sheared off from there, but based on the SkyTrack camera, I do think this has got a base to it that is right there across Clark County. So that's something we'll be watching as it moves. Again, right along obviously the Lee Hamilton area. Again, nothing severe right now being indicated, but that's the trend we saw in Indianapolis, just south of I-70, where we saw several of these cells that developed, and they kind of just created a line or a chain effect because the shear is at the moment kind of going the same path and same direction. So they're all kind of feeding like dominoes. You get one, especially if it produces any kind of outflow, it is going to help induce like a mini cold front would right there off to the east. The one in Crawford County, I know they keep saying they're not really concerned about Weather Service. They made their statements on it, but it's trying to hold its own there for a bit, and I think we may end up with some hail reports of that here very, very soon. We don't have that hook like we did earlier, that separation, but I do think that's been the trend as these cells get together and they stay in a very, very favorable environment for shear, Kevin, especially there on the other side of the Ohio River.
All right, watching closely Louisville Metro. Brian's got his eyes on that. I've been watching the storm that is gradually moving out of the tornado warning that we have across parts of now western Harrison County. Zooming back in, it's pretty much confined to western Harrison. Notice the purple showing up, an indication that we could be seeing the potential for a little bit more hail out of that storm. Milltown, the police there and the department had their drone up looking at this storm, said it had separated a little bit, meaning it was being sheared off just a bit. So that's going to be something that we watch. Back to the velocity, just looking for that rotation, and it's still there right along 64, pretty much on the county line as we move out of Crawford County into Harrison County. This storm would move right along 64 between Moberly and White Cloud. It's going to take it pretty much right into the Corydon area as we move through the next half hour here, next 20 minutes really. So before 9:30, it should reach in that area.
Okay, new tornado warning. That's for Floyd and Harrison, so it's cycling back up. It looks like.
Yeah. So again, the same storm we're watching under the tornado warning. This is going to take it very much. And I mean, keep in mind, here's Metro Louisville. So we would be next in line if it still holds together. And remember what I've said about these, they don't die easily. So these storms are going to last for quite some time. And as that rotation continues, it's right along 64. It's going to be approaching Corydon. We're going to get a good shot of that as it moves in, even though we're in a little bit of a sort of a low-lying area with the camera. Ours sits on top of the library there in Corydon. We'll get a shot of that as it moves through, so we'll have our eyes on it. That's super important. You'll also notice when we look at the reflectivity to the velocity that we still have that couplet showing up right along 64. This makes it easy to track as well for people who are like, where is it in relation to where I live? Well, this is right on the interstate, all right? Is the tornado on the ground? Don't know. Has there been damage? Yes. Do you need to treat it like it's on the ground? Absolutely, all right? Lowest level.
Overall, the rotation continues to look little to none, but you can see right there, it does look like a continuation of the tornado warning nonetheless. And to give you the latest information on that, Jay, that's going to go until 9:45. It is still a storm capable of producing a tornado located near Corydon, moving east at 30 miles per hour. It continues to be radar indicated. But again, Jay, this goes until now. 9:45, it includes the Corydon area, Lanesville, as well as parts of Floyd County if it holds together, including the Georgetown area, and it looks like just south of Greenville.
Okay, so there you go, folks. The warning has been extended now to include Corydon and just off to the east of there on into sections of Floyd County. If you reside in northern portions of Harrison County, please get to your shelter immediately. Stay to cycle, if you will. So that's why the tornado warning has been reissued across the area. That is the only severe storm we have in the WLKY viewing area. We have additional strong and severe storms off to the north. Some pretty heavy storms trying to form west and northwest of Vincennes. Not yet severe. Hopefully they won't be, but nonetheless, we'll watch it. And a brand new tornado warning just now issued for another storm here in Clark County. So NWS is likely looking at these storms, starting to look at the rotation in these cells. And they're not messing around as far as you know, is it a tornado? Could it produce a tornado? I mean, the atmosphere has a ton of wind energy in it tonight and a lot of twisting and turning. It would not take much to get that tornado down towards the ground. And that is a pretty decent couplet right there. Notice the bright reds. Those are strong winds blowing towards the top portion of your TV set. Green, the bottom portion of your TV set. There's Starlight, Indiana. This is western sections of Clark County, and you can see the tornadic part of the storm, the strong circulation, the couplet, moving off in an east-northeasterly direction at speeds of around 20 to 30 miles per hour. There's Highway 60. This is 65 pushing north towards Memphis. So if you are in central portions of Clark County, get into your basement right now. Tornado warning in effect for you as well. This is the second tornado warning for the WLKY viewing area, getting very close to the metro now, immediately north, immediately west of downtown Louisville. So we'll have to be on our guard, even around the metro, going forward the next 30 to 60 minutes. There is one velocity couplet holding west of Corydon on Interstate 64. And here's the other one, which, Matt, by the way, this one here in western portions of Clark County, west of Sellersburg, that one looks to be more intense and a little bit tighter as well. Something that is and could produce a tornado.
Jay, I was looking just at the most recent scans of the radar there. The last two have really shown that beginning to ramp up, even though the actual radar image, we see the little bit of the hook right there in the center of your screen. But overall, the storm off to the south and west in Harrison County looks better on radar when we're talking about looking at the reflectivity and the rainfall. But when we do turn on that storm relative velocity, this couplet right here, as you were mentioning, Jay, right through portions of Clark County there, headed likely between Sellersburg and Memphis in the I-65 corridor. That light shade of pink that I'm highlighting with the cursor right now indicates winds 70 miles per hour on the opposite side of that 20. So a gate-to-gate shear of around 90 miles per hour with this particular storm. And if anything, over the last couple of scans, I'll get it in the frame here so you can see, we'll go forward. That area is starting to ramp up just in the last couple of scans of the radar. Also was looking back at the storm north of Corydon, Jay, and they've kind of adjusted the southern edge of that warning just a little bit here over the last few minutes.
Yeah.
And we'll just take a quick look at that. Storm looks like it may be reorganizing there a little bit to the north and west of Corydon. So definitely two cells and storms to watch, but in agreement with you that right now, the one that is in south and western portions of Clark County is the one that looks perhaps the worst out of the two in terms of rotation right now. Still both radar indicated from the National Weather Service. We don't have any ground confirmation on any tornadoes at this moment.
Hey, Matt, could you zoom in on the analyzer there to the northeastern cell? And what about the correlation coefficient? Do you see anything on that? Now, folks, this is a product that picks up light particles in the atmosphere. So again, I was talking about this earlier. Guys, if you would put me in key wall with the analyzer behind me. There we go. I just popped in, didn't I? Okay, so like particles in the atmosphere is what this radar product picks up. So when you see everything this magenta color, if you will, that's one type of product. That's one type of particle, I should say. A raindrop, in other words. If we have the darker blues or the greens, and this is very important, they're co-located with the velocity couplet, that could be other particles that are flying around in the atmosphere. In other words, it could be debris from a potential tornado. Matt, what did you see? What was that co-located, or was that?
I'm going to shift it back to you. So here we go. Look at the area of best rotation.
Yeah.
And then I'll put that back on. And but I don't see anything that's very tight in terms of a smaller indication there,
Right.
what we would expect.
Right.
I'll also put on the vertically integrated liquid there. Maybe there could be a little bit of hail mixing in there as well, but it's definitely something to monitor there. It's showing signs of perhaps a maybe there.
Can you real quick? Can you put on the velocity for me on this product? Okay, it is close. You're right. So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, everything seems to be lining up. Bottom line, there's a tornado warning in effect. Whether or not we have something on the ground or trying to reach down towards the ground, it's possible. But what we need is everybody to be in their place of safety here in portions of Clark County, including the Memphis area, including Charlestown as well. Even though the actual rotation, the actual couplet, which seems to have weakened just a little bit as it's moving towards I-65, we still want you to be in your basement, in your tornado-warned shelter area until this thing has either passed on by, the warning has been discontinued, or canceled. But yeah, we have a couple of supercells, certainly, that have formed on this Tuesday evening, immediately north and west of the metro area. The one to the west of town is just north of Corydon, traveling along Interstate 64, at least just north of there, towards the Crandall area. Here's Georgetown, Galena also in this general area just off to the northeast. There's Lanesville. This is the region. This is holding just south of, let's say, Palmyra right now, okay? And there's the little velocity couplet, which is very broad right now. Doesn't look to be all that impressive, but the one thing we can't forget about is all the wind energy that we have in the atmosphere, and also just how warm and muggy it is. There is a lot of fuel for these storms to pop up. across the WLKY viewing area on this Tuesday night.
Yeah, Jay, I think it was the first time today we hit 70 on that dew point, so a very tropical summer-style air mass that gives us the instability for these storms. And, of course, if you've been talking about, and we've been tracking all day in the forecast last couple of days, is all the wind energy with these storms and the concern for this kind of cellular nature with them as well. So as long as they can stay a little more discreet, perhaps a better chance to tap in to some of that rotation in the atmosphere. So definitely have to watch that. As I'm just going to give you a little, just so we can kind of reset here a little bit, the worst of the weather in terms of the more numerous severe thunderstorm wind tornado warnings look to be to our north. Doesn't look like anything's popping too much back off to the south. I know you also mentioned, Jay, we monitor to the north and west too over the next couple hours as we head into the later evening hours. I think there's a little more development kicking up there in the southern portions of Illinois that we'll be monitoring through the next couple hours ahead.
Yeah, a lot of the computer data that's coming in, the short-term computer data that tends to give us where these thunderstorms try to pop, are indeed popping more activity across southwestern Indiana as the cold front nears. So we'll have to watch that scenario, certainly, over the next hour or two. But of immediate concern, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Emergency management in Clark County is chiming in. Reports of a tornado on the ground, according to a 911 caller. Deer Lake Drive area in Clark County, Indiana. There's a report from a 911 caller that there is a tornado on the ground. So National Weather Service is talking with them and getting more information.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Daniel. I do appreciate it. Let's go back to the links. And what I'd like to do, Daniel, is zoom in a little bit tighter here. This is actually the circulation center. It's getting very close to Interstate 65 now. This is likely where that report from that tornado came in. Report of a tornado on the ground in this general area. Daniel, let's also do a storm track moving off towards the northeast there at speeds of around 20 miles per hour or so. And we'll give folks an idea of who's in the path of this storm. And you can see Perry Crossing, 926. Memphis, around 930. The Charlestown area, 938. So if you're anywhere close to these communities I just named, please be in your basement. Stay there until the danger has passed. This is a rotating supercellular thunderstorm that we now have at least a report of a tornado on the ground from 911. Was that correct, Daniel?
Yeah, now there's multiple people calling in with a tornado on the ground. Perry Crossing area.
Okay, the Perry Crossing area. We have a report of a tornado on the ground. So it would be in this general area. Here's 31, Highway 31. Here's 65. Let's zoom in even tighter there, Daniel. Go right down the street level mapping, if you would, for me. This is where the report of the tornado is coming in. There you go. There's Highway 31, Perry Crossing Road right there. And then this tornado that's on the ground moving off towards the east and also the northeast at speeds of around 20, 25 miles an hour. This is the rotation. All right, so we need you in your basement and stay there until the danger has passed. Matt, what else are you seeing?
Well, Jay, yeah, I was looking, and Daniel mentioned it, the Perry Crossing area, the initial report, the Deer Lake Drive area is also right there between Starlight and Memphis, so it was immediately west of Interstate 65.
Yeah.
Perry Crossing, there's a neighborhood just west of Interstate 65 that I think we're zoomed into right now, and so these are some of the areas that are currently being affected. And then we look a little farther down the line, the closer we get to Charlestown. So between I-65 and Charlestown, we want to be very much in our tornado warning areas and our storm shelters, because this storm, and there's a couple of videos coming in too, Jay, that don't show necessarily a tornado on the ground, but definitely a well put together storm that is rotating, and again, several 911 calls reporting the tornado on the ground there.
Okay, we'll try and get those videos for you, get them on the air as quickly as we can, but nonetheless, a dangerous thunderstorm producing what looks to be a tornado that's on the ground, or at least was on the ground. Whether or not it's still on the ground remains to be seen, but nonetheless, a well-developed supercellular thunderstorm that is moving steadily off to the east-northeast at speeds of around 20 miles an hour. That's the northeastern tornado warned storm. Then we have the other tornado warning that is sitting here in east central portions of Harrison County in Indiana. Looks like the strongest part of the rotation is now just off to the northeast of Corydon on Interstate 64, and this is pushing towards Georgetown and Lanesville. This is kind of moving parallel to Interstate 64 in east and northeastern Harrison County, heading into western Floyd County. So if you are in, let's say, Crandall, if you are in Georgetown, even if you're in Corydon Junction, New Salisbury, please get to your place of safety and stay there until this thing has passed on through, because there's so much wind energy, so much twisting and turning of the winds. It's not taking much for these actual supercells to produce a tornado. There's the storm track, 929 Crandall, Georgetown 939, 951 Floyd's Knobs, New Albany around 955. If it holds together, it could be impacting portions of New Albany here closer to 10 o'clock tonight. All right? Keep in mind the tornado watch continues until 3 o'clock in the morning. This is just the start of what could be a fairly long evening, as the actual cold front, folks, is still way up here to the northwest of us. And as that moves in our direction, we will likely see additional storms fire up across the WLKY viewing area. But it's a pair of supercellular thunderstorms, both warned for tornadoes. The northeastern storm, at least several reports now coming in of a tornado on the ground very close to the Perry Crossing area. And this is heading towards places like Charlestown. So from Perry Crossing, I-65 over to Charlestown, as Matt just talked about, we need you in your basement. Stay there until this thing has passed on by. It's a dangerous storm moving off towards the east-northeast. Not all that quickly either, 20 to 30 miles per hour. Daniel, let's zoom in tight again on the northern tornado warned storm, and let's go over to the velocity scan. Again, you can see a little kidney bean appearance, and yeah, there is still broad rotation here, but as we've seen, I mean, the rotation we picked up with the tornado on the ground was quite broad as well. So it's not taking much for these storms to produce. That is for sure.
I think that's why the National Weather Service is being so cautious and issuing these warnings pretty quickly, because we're seeing impressive velocity signatures that give us an indication that there could be a tornado on the ground. Then it weakens momentarily, then re-strengthens again. We're just in that type of environment where a little bit of this rotation and all this wind energy we have could put down a quick spin up.
Hey, Jay, before you get going, too, we have a report of some, at least what's considered light debris across Interstate 65 just north of the Perry Crossing Drive area. So right kind of at the beginning of that tornado warning polygon there, some reports of at least what is considered light. So I'm going to think perhaps some tree debris, maybe a few roofing shingles and things like that, perhaps reported on Interstate 65 there.
Well, hopefully this thing is lifted. Hopefully it's not going to give us much more of a problem, but nonetheless, tornado was on the ground right around Perry Crossing, has continued to push its way off towards the east-northeast. Here is Stricker Road. You get over towards Stony Point Road, and then you get into the Charlestown area. This is the region, ground zero, for potential tornadic weather here over the next few minutes. If you reside in this region or you have friends and family, give them a quick phone call. Get to your basement, guys, because you know what? Maybe they're not watching TV. They need to know what's going on. Help us spread the word, if you will. And get to that basement, no basement, lowest level of your house in an interior room. Here's Charlestown, Memphis Road, as you can see, heading away from the Charlestown area. So this is all ground zero for that possible tornado that could still be on the ground, even though the rotation doesn't look all that impressive. You can see that bright red right next to the darker red. That implies cyclonic rotation, so that's what we have to watch out for, and it's right around the Sylvan Grove area, sliding its way off to the east and also the northeast. Any additional reports coming in, Daniel?
Yeah, I don't see any of that. As Matt mentioned, the light debris on 65, and then multiple callers for a potential, what they say, tornadoes on the ground. Waiting to get more information from the National Weather Service on what they're thinking in terms of velocity, because we're seeing some weakening on radar, which is some good news. But no, we're in the National Weather Service chat room right now, waiting for more updates from emergency management, National Weather Service meteorologists, see what they're seeing as well. And of course, we'll pass those along, but nothing new right now.
Okay, bottom line, we need you in your basement if you're here in central portions of Clark County, from near Charlestown and just to the north of there, back to 65, and then off towards the east and northeast. Matt, how about this other warned storm that's down in Harrison and Floyd counties? What are you seeing right now with that?
I've been checking it out too, Jay, and overall, it may be going through a little bit of a cycle here, but recently, I don't see too much in terms of immediate rotation with that storm. It does look a little more outflow dominant, or perhaps even just kind of that rear flank downdraft, again, wrapping it around and giving us straight line winds. I still have some indications on the radar that we could be looking at 60+ mile-per-hour wind gusts between Georgetown and Lanesville. So if you're in those communities right along the Harrison and Floyd County line along Interstate 64, you are under a tornado warning, and you do want to be in your tornado safe place, basement or in a center room of your home, but as many walls between you and the storm and outside, because even though some of the rotation that I've been looking at with this storm, while still holding together, looks a little weaker. There are some signs, though, that we could have some stronger, at least straight line winds with this. Again, nearing Lanesville and perhaps as north of up to Georgetown, but really right near that Interstate 64 corridor is where we have a couple of those pixels that turn into that light pink. That's some of the indications of the stronger wind gust, Jay, with this particular cell. So the overall rotation or imminent tornado threat, I think, looks to be a little bit on the weaker side, but that right there looks a little more straight line wind, or a little push out there on the rear flank of that rotation. So heading towards the Lanesville area and that Lanesville exit on 64.
Okay, Matt, thanks so very much. All right, let's pull out here, Daniel. Let's get the very latest. You can see the tornado warning that was in effect for sections of Harrison County, Floyd County, has been discontinued to this point. Hopefully that trend will continue. We still have the warning here in central portions of Clark County, immediately north of the metro, very close to Charlestown. If you live in Charlestown, surrounding communities, please get to your basement and stay there until this storm has passed on by, or weakens, or the warning is canceled. And really, that's all we have going on in the WLKY viewing area. These two cells that originated actually off to the west and southwest. And it looks like, has NWS canceled that warning?
Yeah, Jay, there was no mention of it on the chats or anything, but both of them, which I find to be a little odd because they were supposed to go until 9:45, both of them just went off all of our screens. And so we are looking at multiple sources. So both our link system, Storm Analyzer, radar, all do not have the warnings. I do not have anything from National Weather Service that stated they were going to drop them early, but something that we're going to continue to check on. But yeah, no, your eyes are not deceiving you, Jay. Both of those warnings went off the screen there. So we'll continue to check and confirm, but potentially the warnings have been allowed to cancel a little early.